Welcome everyone back to another episode of the Forever Game Podcast. And today we are talking about our current obsessions. You can tell by the fact that we need so many episodes of obsessions that we have many changing obsessions.
Our interests just continue to lead us into weird things and fun
always,
things.
Yeah, they're changing, as we are learning stuff and dropping other things. I think it's interesting. You don't notice the things that you're dropping until you maybe look back at like your history of something or history of reading and you're like, oh yeah, I used to be into that thing.
That is so true. I do feel like we're normal though. This is very healthy in the way that we
are so normal. so
couldn't be more normal.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we'll jump into it. And would you like me to go first or would you like to go first?
Because I don't know yours, you kind of teased it up. I'm very curious. So yeah, I want you to go first.
Okay. Well, this is going to be less exciting for you, just because I kind of know you. But so I got an email. This was 3 days ago. So Sunday, I got an email from Amazon that, owns Audible. That's an audio book like shoot off of Amazon. And it said, hey, you have 12 credits, which means 12 books. Audiobooks you can buy. They're going to expire unless you use them. And I was like, okay, well, I've never really been an audiobook person. Huge podcast person, but not a really big audiobook person.
Okay.
And it wasn't until like 10 years after high school that 28, that I actually got into reading. But I was reading on my phone. I read 20 to 30 books on my phone every year.
That is a lie.
Yeah,
I do not read 20 to 30 books on your phone.
Absolutely, I do. I don't tell you about the trash that I read because you would make fun of me. I read
Really?
only for entertainment. And the genre that I'm really into, I just finished this 3-book series, the small 3-book series Saturday. And I'm super obsessed with and this is not part of the episode, this is just a different one, but reading for fun, because I cannot read for education. Like I try to read these business books or other things.
Listen to educational content?
Yeah, I can listen, but I can't read it.
Okay.
That's the whole point. The zombie apocalypse genre, by the way, is what I'm super into for my reading for pleasure. Anywho, so I got that email, 12 credits to use. So I went and just looked at some of the top businessy books, which are always just look terrible to me when I see them in the stores. They're super overly salesy, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I read them.
You have some?
I read them, some of them, but
you have more feel goody ones though, start with why and things like that.
Culture.
Yeah.
Leadership. Yep. Whatever. Okay.
Subtle art of not giving a whatever. So I just went through and downloaded a bunch of them, and one of them, the first one I started with, is by Chris Voss, and it says, never split the difference. And it's negotiating as if your life depended on it. And I'd never listened to an audiobook before. So I just press play while I was, the kids were riding bike outside on Sunday, and I was just kind of standing around, making sure they were okay. Started playing that. And it was so interesting. The art of conversation and what actually leads to people having productive relationship building conversations versus conversations that are self-centered, self-serving. And basically when I listened to this, I was like, oh my gosh, I am an asshole. And, and so that's how I felt. And one of the interesting pieces, I pulled out a couple that are really interesting, is he has 2 different tactics that I'll quickly tell people about. And then one thing that surprised me based on the message you got on LinkedIn, like the spammy message. First is these 2 tactics that are really, really useful. And he calls them, one is open-ended questions.
Yeah.
And that build empathy. So how, what if, how do you feel about these sort of questions? Because
they evict emotion, right?
They get people, and this is the whole point of his book, they get people out of thinking that when you're talking to a potential client or someone you're negotiating something with, which it could be like a spouse, could be anything, that oftentimes we think people act rationally. So if you say, here are the numbers, here's why you need to do this, 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 and this, and that's how negotiating and that's how discussions and client meetings go. But 66% of the time, there are 3 different personality types when it comes to negotiation. I won't get into those, but 2/3 of them are not accountant mindsets. And most decision-making people that have reached a higher level are not this like accountant sort of, let us see how the numbers add up. There are some, but most are not that way. And just like start with why, he says
I was just going to say that.
He says that it is emotion that drives decision-making. And then we rationalize our emotions to make them make sense.
Yep.
So you have a feeling of what you think is right, or you have an emotional reaction to what you think is right. And then then your brain will go hard to work rationalizing all of that decision for you. And so instead of trying to convince someone you're working with logically why they should do something, you should ask these 2 things, the open-ended question and what he calls a mirror. So the first one is, well, how could we bring as much value doing these sorts of things for you and your business or you and your organization, because you're trying to pitch someone on what you're trying to do.
Okay.
And what it does is it allows them like a mode of control. They feel like they're in control, directing the conversation, but then they're also giving you information and doing work for you that you can use later. Does that make sense?
Yep. A mirror. That's interesting.
And then mirror, which is exactly what you just did just now, is when someone says something. So if you say a mirror, or I bring up something,
you
like
repeat
mirror,
it back to them.
You repeat it back to them as a statement and not a question. So if someone is talking about how it's a brewery in northern Minnesota and you guys are thinking about doing a collaboration, and they're like, yeah, and this is, producing that much beer, it's really difficult for us based on our capacity. And then you'd go, oh, based on your capacity, like that. And then it like forces them to go in to elaborate more about it. And the more that they're talking, the more they feel comfortable, the more like they feel like you're listening.
Oh my gosh. I think this is really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
I thought I wasn't going to be interested. I think I do that all the time because
you do it all the time.
Because I prefer for somebody else to keep talking. And so I just tee up, which is what I'd consider it. But like, you're listening and you repeat something in a sense, but it makes them think about things another level down, or you know what I mean? Another step further.
It makes them go and explain it.
Okay.
Yep.
I like that.
So the mirror, those 2 tactics, and this is from a guy who was the top international terrorist negotiator for the United States government. And he used these tools to like basically be successful at his job. And then the other little caveat, so those are the 2 basic tactics, or 2 of them. He lists a few. And the other tiny little one is salespeople often make the mistake when they're making a sales call. You've probably gotten like a telemarketer call right at dinner time, and you'll pick up the phone and they'll say something like, do you drink water? And what are you going to say?
Yes.
Yes. Do you like your water to taste pure and like devoid of chemical aftertaste? You're like, yes. And he says that it's this obsession with salespeople to try to get yes from everyone, because they're trying to get to yes as quickly as possible. So they think leading you down a whole bunch of yes questions will lead you to saying yes later. But what actually happens is when someone states to you something that is a question and you have no choice but to say yes, you get defensive. Mm-hmm. You want to rebel. You want to escape because you feel like you have no control. You didn't pose the question. You didn't set like the boundaries of this mini little conversation. That person did. And with the first 2, the open-ended question and the mirror, you're like giving control back to that person. And with that message you got, do you have it? Do you want to read it?
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. I make it bigger, please. Thank you. Okay. So I just connected with this random lady on LinkedIn who I accepted her invite because she does online marketing related stuff. She's apparently a business coach. Oh, she's teaching people how to generate income online from home. That seems like she just updated that for COVID, but that's fine. So
So you got a direct message.
I got a direct message that said, "Hi, Jamie, lovely to connect. Are you the type of person that is closed-minded, or do you keep your options open when it comes to generating more cash flow into your bank account, wallet, pocket, if it doesn't interfere with what you are we're currently doing?" So what are you
that
going
to
to say
me,
about that?
it's like you're trapped. Like, are you going to say this isn't an open-ended question where you can take control and share things about yourself that would then help her if she was really well-intentioned. It's instead like a trapping question that makes you get defensive, get a yucky feeling. And like, did you respond to that?
I have not, and I don't think I'm going to, because I don't really, it's not a conversation I'm interested in. But who's going to say no? Like, nobody who on earth is a business person that's like, whoop, nope, I'm not interested in any more revenue or any more checks or money coming my way. No. So it's a weird question that most people are going to say yes to if they do respond, but I'm not going to.
Right. And so it just makes me think that, and his point is, you should get people to say no about something. So instead, what she could have said is, hey, this is what I do. Would you be interested, or do you have space in your schedule, or would you be interested in doing this sort of work? And you could say no, you could say yes, but if you said no, and he says that's when negotiation starts. As soon as you get the other person to say no, which makes them feel in control, which makes them feel like they can direct the conversation, that's when everything starts. They've given you some sort of like honest response, and they feel like they're in control. That's when you can start with, oh, so you're not interested in doing that, which would be a mirror. And then it allows that person, then that other person's like, I feel like I need to. They explain their situation, they explain whatever. And it was really, really interesting. And
so are you through the book? Are you through the audiobook?
For the second time.
Oh, that's the thing about audiobooks is I feel like I miss so much.
Me too.
But again, I like the concept of it.
Right. All right. Your first obsession of two.
Well, they're they're somewhat intertwined. My first one's pretty simple, but it's a change. Both of my obsessions are related to more like physical, personal health. But a change I've made in my morning routine that I'm very, I feel like it's having positive impacts, although I have zero way to measure that.
Mm-hmm.
But so the first thing I've been doing when I wake up in the morning is having a mugful of hot water before I consume anything, which I drink hot water, but I used to just eat breakfast right away.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of eating something, I'm consuming liquid, which is mostly, a lot of the times when people think they're hungry, they're actually thirsty. But it's a very also calming, soothing thing, which I think like the coffee drinkers out there that just like consuming warm beverages could switch to doing something a little bit more productive for their body.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's having some good positive impacts. Like I said, I can't measure it, but it's setting the tone for a good day.
Well, it's one good decision you made. Because when you drink that
right off the bat.
Yeah, when I go and drink my like blonde hair colored, creamer coffee 50-50 mixer.
Yeah, your latte.
That's not really a good decision right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I know.
Although you enjoy it.
Oh,
it's tasty.
Yeah, they don't always taste good. Sometimes it's like painful getting it down.
Because you put too many shots of espresso in it?
Yeah, yep. But that's an investment in the future. But with your water, not only have I like read and heard that waking up and drinking a big glass of water is like the best thing you can do early in the morning.
Yeah.
Because you wake up and you're like naturally dehydrated, but no one really thinks to do that. I've heard that. And so good for you. I will not adapt that.
Okay. You don't have to.
No.
But I'm going to take it a step further.
Ooh.
Because of this, because of that second part of my obsession, which is, and this is something I've been really curious about for a while, but I've never pulled the trigger on it because it's kind of like it's an investment. It's not a cheap gift that one would buy for themselves, but hopefully it's worth it. So a juice cleanse. I've been really into the idea, and I must be talking about it around Micah, because he, for my birthday, got me this 3-day package juice cleanse from the local spot that just WYSIWYG that just opened in Spicer. And so now I got it yesterday morning, because yesterday was my birthday, and I was reading up on how to properly prepare and do it, the whole process, things that they recommend. First thing on the list was to have a cup of hot water in the morning with, I've already forgotten, apple cider vinegar and lemon. So now I think moving forward, I'm going to try, well, first I got to try it, make sure I can choke it down. But I don't think it's going to be too strange. I'm going to try adapting that as well into the whole
Both
into
of
the
that
whole thing.
apple cider vinegar and lemon are supposed to be really, really good for your liver. So
yes.
help clean out your liver.
Digestive tract, love. Try and stay healthy down there, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, so my second obsession is this whole juice cleanse idea and what will happen after I do it, how I will feel, how it'll change my mindset. I like a challenge, so I like to eat, of course. So how this will impact. No, I do. I eat a lot, Tyler. It's just a matter of what you eat, how much you consume, and all.
I think I like what I eat more than you like what you eat.
I don't think so.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I thoroughly enjoy food.
Because I have a borderline sexual relationship with the food that I eat.
Well, we can talk about that later.
Okay.
But anyways, I'm excited to report where this obsession is going to lead. Like I said, we need a part 2. We need a follow up.
Totally.
So I'm going to start Sunday, I've decided, because it's still my birthday week. So I'm going to have most likely some drinks on Friday.
Yep.
If not today. No, I'm just kidding. And so I need to be cleansed of that before I start the cleanse.
You need to have something in there to do the cleansing of.
Yeah, for sure.
Get your money out of your cleanse.
So I'm thinking Sunday through Tuesday. And we'll see.
I mean, is it like 3 shakes a day or what is it?
It's 6. I think it's either 5 or 6 juices. So they're like green juices, a mixture of things. And then 2 nut milks. So they're cinnamon, almond, nut milks.
Oof, I couldn't do that. The cinnamon.
Really? Oh my gosh.
I don't like, this is going to sound bad, but I don't like thick, creamy cinnamon things.
Really? Oh.
Like fan. my wife
you would hate my breakfast then. Like
the chai tea sort of thing that my wife likes. I can't even smell it. It smells disgusting.
Oh, sad. Yeah. So I'm very excited.
So your hot water and your juice cleanse, those are your 2 things that you're really excited for right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, not to be outdone, and I did want to make sure that you knew it was me when we jumped on this call, because you might not be able to recognize me because I started biking this morning.
I am very excited for your new hobby. Hopefully it becomes one.
Well, everyone that doesn't know is that we had, I've had this like obsession with maybe getting a road bike, because running is really tough on the old football knees and sucks. And I don't really like going to the gym all that much. I don't really enjoy it. I don't want to see and talk to other people while I'm working out.
Well, it's a good thing you can't do that right now.
Right. And so I was like, biking, low impact. It's supposed to burn like a high rate of calories, but almost all fat burning exercise. It doesn't really get into aerobic unless you really get into the hills and stuff like that. And so I thought, I'll give that a shot. So then it allowed me to take my full-blown, all the time obsession of gear into a new industry and field.
And boy, is it a new feel for you.
Yes, brand new.
You know what I'm saying? You got those bike shorts.
That's right. Oh, I'll get to those. And so I jumped on Facebook Marketplace because I wanted to go out and spend $1,200 on a road bike, but that's just silly if I don't even know if I like it.
Logically.
So I found one cheap, well, I thought it was cheap. I don't really know. That was listed for $450 in Facebook Marketplace in St. Cloud. And I thought, this is a chance to use my new negotiation techniques from this book I've been listening to try to get a better deal. So I'll walk through his system. So there is this 65, 85, 95, 100% offer. So what you should do is you start when you're having your discussion with the person you're negotiating a price with. If you're the buyer trying to get something low, or if you're selling something and trying to get something high, either way, it's the same. And I've talked about this before with you, but you set an anchor amount. So in this case, I'm buying, and your extreme anchor is just a number that you need to be able to say out loud in front of the person that is extremely low in this case, since I'm buying. So he had a list of $450. And my response was, when I first messaged him about it, was, is this available? He said, yes. And then I said, I'm kind of looking to spend around $250 on a bike. I didn't say his bike, but I said a bike and said $250. Then I caveated it with something that was like an open-ended question or statement. And I said, but it looks like you take really nice care of you've taken a really nice care of this bike. So I said the dollar amount. I made a statement that was open-ended that elicited a response. So he said, yes, I have. And he went into describing all the ways he'd taken care of it. And then he immediately said, I was hoping to get $400 out of it. So he dropped $50 within a minute of talking. And so then I said, okay, well, I have to see if I can stretch the budget. And I responded, and he had mentioned something about his back and why he was selling it. And I said, oh, so you have an issue with your back, which is what he had brought up, which was another mirror for him. So he went into like describing his back, I asked a couple of open-ended questions about that. This is all on Facebook Messenger, by the way.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting it for $350. We had agreed on $375. My top max was $400. So I offered the $250. I went up a big jump to $325, and he didn't respond to the dollar amount, which means you're good. It means you're like the negotiation is going well. And then I mentioned one more thing. He said he'd throw in the shoes and he would tune it all, which he did. And
the shoes?
There's like shoes
nice.
that clip into specific pedals.
Yeah. Remember when we talked about those in our biking episode? Social improv? Maybe you don't. You don't remember things.
I don't remember.
Details.
Stuff. Things.
I talked about those shoes.
Okay. Well, anyway, he's size 9.5 feet. Well, that's not going to work. So I said, no, thanks. No problem with that. And then I listed my final offer, which was $375, which my goal was to get it for $400. And he said, yeah, that's great. That works. And when you list your final offer, which is 100% of your max, so you go 65%, 85%, 95% max, your offers. That's what your structure should kind of be.
Yep.
And your last offer should throw in some sort of concession that isn't really even worth that much, but to show that, you've reached the max, your budget, you can't get anything else. So I said $375, and I'm happy to drive to you whenever it works. And he said, yes, how's today work? That sounds great. So I get there, and super nice guy. And I'm counting out the money after he looked at the bike and I tried it, whatever. He's like, you know what? $350 is good. And so he just like let me keep the $25 to myself, which I had counted out. And so I got it $50 less than what I wanted to get it for, which was amazing. And went on my first bike ride this morning after I figured out that I didn't know how to shift the gears. Like I had no idea. So I brought it into Rick's cycling shop. And I was like, I think the gears are broken. They're not switching. And he's like, looks at me, hangs them up, does it, and shows me how to do it. And they all work perfectly. And I'm like, well, I'm a fucking asshole. And so I went home.
That's okay. You're still learning.
Got ready, went on my ride today. I had my super inflated ass pants that I wore. You can't wear underwear underneath them, by the way. That's the rule.
Oh, really? I guess I didn't know that.
Well, what am I going to wear, a thong?
Yeah, it would have been a lot of layers going on.
Yeah, there's so many like tight rubbing edges. But anyway, yeah, I went on my ride. I felt pretty good and averaged about 15 miles per hour for about 35 minutes. So I felt good about that. And the A feels pretty good right now. So I'm going to go for it tomorrow.
Try it again. See if you still like it. Wow. The bike story. You were just waiting to tell that.
I was so waiting, and it was so
Mhm.
fun with
Mhm.
something small like that to be able to try to use those things. And
I'm
yeah,
glad you gave some. This is this is a value packed episode because I like the negotiation tactics, and I didn't know that I was using some of them already.
yes, you are naturally good at it. The only part that you don't like, which I don't think anyone likes, but that you always kind of steer away from, is you're a natural at that. The only thing you'd have to learn is the ask.
Yes. Yep.
You have too much Minnesota nice in you.
100%. I do.
And I have a whole lot to learn about it because the ask doesn't bother me, but it's
It's like the emotion and listening and listening.
right. And my natural tendency is there are the three ways you can negotiate. There's like the cooperative person, which is you. There's the analytical person, which is all by the numbers. And then there's the assertive person. And the assertive person feels the need to fill empty spaces with talking.
Yeah.
And although he or she thinks that they know how the other person is feeling, they spend so much time thinking about what they're going to say to fill the awkwardness that they don't actually take the time to listen. So that's me.
Well, at least you know self-awareness is key to
right.
making some changes. So,
all right, well, everyone, that is the obsession episode for this week. Who knows?
well, we're gonna do the follow-up. Maybe I'll do a follow-up in video form and just talk about my experience if anybody cares.
It would be cool if you kind of documented that, maybe on your stories or something like that.
Yeah, I can do that.
And then when it's terrible, then you can force me to buy it for myself, and then I'll really document that. You'll find me like huddled in a corner. Like
you'll be so dramatic about
it. Shaking. Yes.
Shaking.
Like, I need some wings.
In your bike shorts.
Right. Oh, those boys need to be washed. All right. Well, that's the end of our episode today, and we will talk to you all soon.
Peace.
Hey, everybody. The Forever Game Podcast is written and produced by Jamie and myself with help from Jennifer, who also works with us. We are the 1017 Media team, and we love social media marketing. So I have a question for you. Do you love your social media marketing? If you're an individual or a business and you don't love it, let us help you. We would love to help. We would love to just give ideas. We would love to sit down and help you develop a plan that you can execute or that we can help you execute. The strategy is always free. We don't charge for that. If you need help with video, if you are interested in starting your own podcast or a vlog or a blog or developing any sort of consistent high quality content for social media, let us know. That's what we do, and we love doing it. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook. We are at 1017.media. You can also just head to our website and learn more. It's just 1017media.com. That's TEN17media.com. Stay safe. Take care. Peace.